There is even more fallout after Texas's 30-15 loss in Austin last night, following what was a momentous victory for Georgia, beating the number one team on the road, really putting themselves back into that conversation as one of the best teams in college football, if they were even out of that conversation. They're at number 2 in the AP rankings. They're at number 2 in my rankings. Oregon taking the top spot as they're undefeated with the second best win in the sport against Ohio State. But they're getting fined for something I don't know that they could really control, and frankly, what isn't going to stop. So this news comes from Pete Thamel at ESPN. The SEC announced that Texas will be assessed a financial penalty of $250,000 and also, quote, required to use all available resources, including security, stadium, and television video, to identify individuals who threw objects onto the playing field at the opposing team. For those of y'all that were living underneath that particular rock, in the middle of the game where it felt like there was a stupid pass interference call on a Texas defender who made a really great interception, ran that thing all the way back into scoring range and really put Texas back on, we're in this game, they decided that they were going to meet about this and talk. And as they're doing this, we have lots of video, because that's the world we live in, where ABC has given us all of these different images that show us this is really a stupid call, or it looks like a stupid call. But it was the call that was made on the field, and it's not really one that you can challenge or is reversible. So fans, frankly, were acting out because they saw the video board like everybody else did, and they're going, what the hell is this, man? You're trying to cheat us out of the game. And eventually, in a meeting amongst themselves, the referees came back and said, you know what? There is no pass interference on this thing. And the stadium roared. So two things were really just outrageous there. Three things are outrageous. One, the call on the field at the time of the play gets back to a whole lot of what we've thought of as really kind of piss poor officiating this season. I don't know what's going on there. Perhaps it's just one of those jobs that we need to unionize and or make as attractive as being a football coach so that we get better referees, because we're getting to the point where the coaches know the rule book better than the referees do, or so it seems. Take a look at 12 men on the field for Oregon in what was a diabolical move to beat Ohio State or to end Ohio State's opportunity to win at Autzen. And then you have guys that absolutely understand the rule book and know what they're looking at with holding calls, with pass interference calls, with every call, targeting calls, right? There were 2 targeting penalties on Georgia defenders, one of which, okay, cool. The other one, crown of the helmet to any place, I guess, is a targeting call. You launched 2 defenders on that on that Georgia defense, and in doing so, you didn't really stop anything or anybody. So Kirby Smart gets to say what he said in the postgame, which is they tried to rob us with calls, and that's how it felt at DKR, where you are 100% the enemy. And rather than chant SEC, which is what SEC teams are wont to do, UGA fans decided to ostracize Texas in this moment and just chant UGA, which may or may not be something that they just do. But I still think that in that moment on that national stage where a whole lot of people are being exposed to what Georgia is capable of doing for only the second time this year, as this is the second time they played real big time college football on television, then yeah, man, that's going to ring a little bit differently for the rest of us. The thing that I find interesting about this is, we had a flag on the field that I thought was kind of asinine at the time. And then you got Steve Sarkisian getting into the mix, because when you get these shots of all these things that are being thrown onto the corner of the field at the opposing team, in the opposing team's direction, you got the head coach walking over there going, please chill, calm down, enough of this. We're trying to play football here. And then what happens? You overturn the call. You're just making the crowd feel as if it is the Roman Coliseum. You're going to give us what we want or we riot, which is really the bad message to send. The other one is, this isn't going to stop anybody from being stupid. Just like finding schools for field rushes is not going to stop people from field rushing. It ain't their money they got to pay. B, I've never known a speeding ticket to slow down someone who is insistent on speeding. Just ask half the Georgia roster. It's not really the kind of impediment that you think it is. It's just, if I got the cash, I will do it, right? If I can pay my way out of this, I will do that. That's what we do. That's That's what the money's for, is what they would say. And $250,000 to a university like Texas doesn't feel like much, which is ridiculous because the levels of income inequality in this country are all over the map, man. But $250 to them is $2.50 to us. Like, would you pay that if you get to talk your noise? Probably, because that's the kind of person that also has a subscription to a message board and writes under a pen name so that it can just mouth off about anything that they would not want to do in public. So when you start doing these things out loud, that we got a problem with it. I do think that the SEC is doing what it probably should be doing. It doesn't make it feel any less like the feds. It doesn't make it feel any less like the cops. And who likes the feds and the cops when they're coming after you? I just think that it's also insult to injury because usually if you're Arkansas, you field rush, you're going to pay $250,000 because, well, you stormed the court, you stormed the field, but you beat Tennessee, who was number 4 team in the country, and that was a huge win. You're going to pay that money, right? Same thing with Vanderbilt, who knocked off the number 1 team in the country. You're going to pay that money, feel good about it. This sucks because you lost the game by double digits and you owe $250 to the SEC. What I'm going to look up and try to find an answer to is, who does that money go to? Because in a field rush situation, that money goes to the team that you rushed on. So Vanderbilt's paying all that money to Alabama, and Arkansas's paying all that money to Tennessee. It will be the funniest thing to find out that Texas not only has to hold this L from Georgia, but has to pay them $250,000 for the privilege. Roundabout way of putting money in the bag, I know. But when you're talking about $250,000 to an institution that's probably going to clear 200 easy in any given year, whether they win the national championship or not, what are we really doing here? And I think the SEC is saying, hey, we acknowledge this. We saw this. We were embarrassed by it. The school was embarrassed by it. Everybody's embarrassed by it. And this is how we approach these things when we're embarrassed by them. I also think that it's funny that the SEC can do more to a university than it can do to any players, which take that in any direction you want to go. But it's easy to identify institutions as a problem. It's more difficult to make it personal and identify individuals as a problem. Either way, I just think that the 6-figure payouts are not going to disincentivize otherwise hooligan behavior, because fan is short for fanatic. It's why so many people can watch a show like this one and assume fanaticism at its highest order, which means you don't care about what the results are. You don't care about what the facts are. You only care about what your feelings are. That is not the way that I do business in this show or in life. That bothers me. I'm the first person to say, nah, that sucks, and they're sorry. Like OU, sorry, and they have sucked. Does that make it better? No, it doesn't. But you also don't want to be ostracized from your tribe who's going, wait, you turn it against us? Whose side are you on? And yada, yada, yada. We can't really have a reasonable conversation about this, but I think most reasonable Texas fans would agree it's a bad look. Should they have done it? No. Is it going to stop them from doing it in the future? Also, no.